In this video, I will explain how to use path exploration reports in Google Analytics 4. To get started, go to your Google Analytics 4 property and then click Explore on the left side menu. Then select Path Exploration. The interface of Path Exploration consists of three parts. The first one is the variables. Here you manage the metrics and dimensions and segments that you are going to use in this exploration. Then we have settings. This column is directly related to the exploration. Here you can manage the output of the report. And this biggest part right here is the actual report. In the variables column, you see several predefined segments, but if you want, you can choose several others or create a new segment. But explaining segments goes a bit out of scope of this tutorial. If you want to learn more about them, then I will post some resources below the video. Here we also have dimensions that could be used, for example, as a breakdown, and metrics. Compared to some other popular exploration techniques like freeform or funnel explorations, path exploration does not have a lot of settings. You can add one segment, then here we have node types, but this part cannot be edited. Basically, you can select what kind of dimension will be used to display the value of the node. By default, it is event name, but if you want, you can switch to page path, for example, and then you will see where the visitors went after they started a session. Then we have this setting related to unique nodes. I will talk about it a bit later. Then we have the breakdown, because right now, if I hover my mouse, I just see the number of how many events happened, for example, here or here. But I could add here, for example, device category. And then if I hover my mouse, I see the distribution of events across different event categories. By the way, if you find this tutorial helpful, then click the subscribe button. This is the best free way to support our channel. I would really appreciate it, and it will help me dedicate more time to creating tutorials for you. Then we have filters. So right now we are looking at all data that was captured by this property, but if you're focusing, let's say, just on a particular region, for example, then you could add that filter right here. So let's say that I want to see only that data where country exactly matches United States, and then click apply. So in the path exploration, each branch is called a node, and this is where the journey starts. Right now, the default is that the session start event is the beginning, and then you can see how it is split into different other actions that happened after the session start. So when the session started, most of that happened on the home page because / means the home page. Then if I want, I can click here to expand this node and then see where the visitors went next. I see that there are a lot of not set values. In this case, my guess is that this is happening because this property is using audience triggers, and those often cause not set values. So if I don't want to see the not set anymore, I can do the right click on it, then exclude nodes and from all paths. This will add a node filter that is visible right here. And I can keep expanding these nodes, and a single path exploration can have up to 10 columns. Right now I have 4. Now, if you try to count the numbers, you might notice that, for example, here we have almost 20,000 events happening here, but after that we see a much lower number. So this might indicate that people did not proceed to the next page. Another very handy feature in explorations is that you can look at the journeys not only from the beginning, but you can also start from the end. So to do that, you can click Start Over, and then you can select the ending point. Here we could select, for example, the purchase event, and then you could see what your visitors are doing before they make a purchase. So let's click this. And then in the search field, I can look for purchase, select this event. By the way, one thing to mention is that purchase is not an event that is available out of the box in all properties. This is part of the e-commerce tracking, which means that you will need to configure these kind of events and send them to Google Analytics. This could be done with developers help or Google Tag Manager, or maybe you're using some popular e-commerce plugin on your website that handles the job for you. So now let's select the event. Let me change the dimension from event name to page path, for example, and then I can expand it and go backwards. By the way, we see the not set again because once you start over, the node filters are also removed. Also, as promised, now let me show you the view unique nodes only option right here. So I will start over, then create a starting point where the event name is page view, for example, select that event. And if I disable this option right here, let's take a look what happens. I have the first step, which is page view. And then if it is expanded, I see that the subsequent event, or at least one of the events in the next step, is also page view. So two subsequent columns have the same value. We have page view and we have page view. They are not unique. But if you find yourself in a situation where you would have, let's say, page view, then another column page view, then another column page view again, you could toggle this option right here, and it would make sure that two subsequent columns will not have the same value. So now if I look at the first column, I see page view, but in the second column, page view is no longer visible. By the way, did you know that I have a bunch of free ebooks on Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics? So if you want to better learn these topics, then click the link below the video, download those ebooks, and get started. A good idea to benefit from path exploration would be to look at the checkout process. And this particular property does not track checkout errors as events, but it would be quite useful because if, let's say, I would start over, then select a node where event name is begin checkout. Of course, if you track that event with the GA4 property, so then you could expand nodes one by one, and maybe at some node you would see that a significant portion of events are called errors or checkout errors or something like that. Then you could drill down and understand what kind of errors and where are those errors happening. And hopefully you could recommend the business to improve certain steps of their checkout process and that way increase the conversion rate. By default, the metric displayed in the path exploration is event count, but personally I prefer another metric. So let's disable or actually remove the event count, and then instead I will use total users. So we can just drop it. And now we're looking not at the events because the same person might trigger the same event multiple times. Instead, we're looking at users. Here I see how many users started the checkout, then how many of them added shipping info. Then I can go further and understand what they're doing next. Right here, I would probably switch to the page path because page view event by itself does not tell me much. And I see that they're still at the checkout. And again, if this property was tracking some checkout error events, I would possibly see those events right here, and maybe it would trigger some further investigation from my side, and I would be able to identify what should be fixed at the checkout. As mentioned before, you can also add a segment. In this case, segment is used to narrow down your path exploration and just look at a certain group of visitors. In this case, you cannot compare multiple segments, but this is still quite useful. Even though we have filters, filters allow fairly basic options to narrow down, while with segments, you can create more complex conditions. So let's say that I want to look at the mobile traffic. I can just drag it here and then continue my analysis. If at some point you made a little mistake, you can always undo, and you can do that by clicking the undo button right here. And that's how you can use path exploration reports in GA4. But we were just scratching the surface here. If you want to learn much more about Google Analytics and how to benefit from it, then take a look at my complete GA4 course. I will post a link to it below the video. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or GA4, then subscribe to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.